Today on the Roxom Report London, Bitcoin supermajority are not selling. Deutsche Bank is getting into the Bitcoin custody game. Trump's big beautiful bill passes in the Senate. How Visa and MasterCard are responding to the stablecoin threat. And we'll take a closer look at Bitcoin Beach in El Salvador. All that, and we have Stefania Barbaglio back in the studio to discuss the latest stories with us, and much more today on the Roxom Report London. Hello and welcome to the Roxom Report. I'm your host, Ione Butler, coming to you live from London every weekday to give you our takes on the latest and greatest Bitcoin news. We're going to mix things up today and kick things off with the Market Watch. Let's take a look at how the markets are looking, shall we? Okay, first of all, starting with European stocks. France's CAC 40 is at 7,762. That's up 1.3% today. DAX Performance Index over in Germany, 23,759, up about 0.37%. Euro Stoxx 50 around 5,316, that's up 0.65%. In the UK, the FTSE 100 index at 8,782, slightly down today. But overall, things are looking pretty positive in Europe. Let's see how the US stocks are shaping up. Dow Jones Industrial Index average even 44,494, that's up almost 1%. Everything else is in the red today, unfortunately. We've got the NASDAQ Composite, 20,202, down 0.82%. S&P 500, 6,198, down 0.11%. Coinbase down, almost 4.33%. MicroStrategy down 7.65%. I wonder what's shaping this downward trajectory. Nvidia Corp, 153. I'd have to say perhaps Trump's big beautiful bill. Nvidia Corp at $153, down almost 3%, and Tesla Inc. sliding down 5.34%. Okay, let's see how Bitcoin is doing. Okay. Over the last 24 hours, Bitcoin traded between a low of approximately 105,404 and a high near 107,900, currently priced at 107,859, with a positive change of about 1.99%. The trading volume was robust, close to $47.8 billion, indicating strong market activity. Reasons for price movement include geopolitical factors, the tensions particularly involving Israel, the US, and Iran. Sorry, I'm just going to scroll through here. Institutional demand and ETF inflows. There's been a significant institutional buying pressure, including corporate treasury purchases and strong inflows into Bitcoin exchange-traded funds. This demand is outpacing miners' supply, creating upward price pressure. Also, the macro environment, a global environment of rate cuts and increased liquidity is encouraging investors to seek alternative assets like Bitcoin. Lower interest rates reduce the appeal of traditional investments, boosting demand for Bitcoin. And there's also technical factors. Bitcoin is trading just above key moving averages, with indicators suggesting a potential breakout if it surpasses resistance levels around 109,200 to 110,500. Market sentiment shows a cautious optimism again, with analysts noting a bullish flag pattern that could lead to new highs near 115,000 in the coming weeks. We've been talking about that for some time. Let's see if we get there. And then lastly, the halving cycle impact. While historically Bitcoin halving events have led to price corrections, about 18 months after, current market dynamics with ETF and corporate buying are expected to sustain upward momentum through 2025, possibly pushing prices to new highs around 135,000 in Q3 2025. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our fabulous guest, Stefania Barbaglio.
Security matters. Xapo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at xapobank.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome our guest, Stefania Barbaglio, founder of Cassiopeia Services, an award-winning investor and public relations agency. She's also an entrepreneur and host of the Financial Fox YouTube series. Stefania, great to have you back. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Great to be on the show again.
Awesome. It was really nice speaking to you last week, so we're happy to have you as a regular guest. I'd love to touch on today, because we didn't really get into it, a bit about Financial Fox. You've got is it a podcast or is it just the YouTube videos that you have and you share those on social media?
Well, now we do also podcasts. I mean, we are on all the platforms, right?
Okay.
That's where everything is happening. But we did start as a YouTube channel, really. It was back in 2018 when I was actually bringing CEO of public listed company to come on the show and kind of tell about what they were doing. And then just after that, I said, right, I'm just so interested in crypto and there are so many cool people that I really want to have a chat. So why not invite them on the show? And that's how the show kind of like focused more on, the blockchain technology, on Bitcoin, on, then obviously we talk about all the crypto landscape as well. And I met some really amazing people. I learned a lot along the way and made some really good connection.
I bet I had a podcast a little while ago, and it's incredible speaking to all these people. You learn so much. You make great connections with people. It's like a really good, I mean, it must have helped. You were saying that you started it off because you had these CEOs, you were working with them. So one, you're giving them a platform, but then I imagine as the podcast grew and if you invite people onto the show, it's a good way of getting future clients, perhaps? Did it ever work out like that?
Possibly. I mean, you kind of need to develop the platform because a client see the value when you have a certain amount of base,
that's true.
So then their message can be heard. I tell you, at the beginning, when we did start, it was tough to get people on. I mean, I remember that people didn't want to come on. But like, we went on for a few months. I said, oh God, I'm not getting anyone. And then, you kind of start to go to conferences and stuff. You make friends, and then somebody just do it to do a favor to you.
Yeah.
And then obviously then you get to a point where just everybody want to come on,
fantastic.
and don't have any problem. You reach out, even if he's like a very busy founder, they just say yes, and they're very happy to come and share. It's so impressed. I'm really impressed on how people are, they really want to tell the story. They really want to say what they are working on. And you don't expect that sometimes, right?
How frequent are you doing it? Is it a weekly show?
Weekly.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
we try to do even like twice or three times. It was quite demanding, obviously, because it's a small team. And then I think, if you do live stuff, it's easy because things happen on the go and, you have everything quickly out. Where if you have to take on the editing suite and do the fine editing, then it takes a couple of days, and if you do too much, then you need to have a few editors ready to kind of get things out. Otherwise, the news is old and doesn't make sense.
I wonder, is there, like, what interview have you done that's really stuck out for you, like in a good way or in a bad way? Is there one that's just like, oh, that was kind of like my favorite, or that was weird?
So the weird one, that's the easy one. So that big gold bug, and
gold bag
hates Bitcoin in the US.
The gold bug?
He's like a big gold proponent.
Oh, okay, this is a person?
Yeah.
He's called the gold bug?
Yeah,
okay.
Gold bug is kind of like somebody that is really
into gold.
Okay. And doesn't like Bitcoin.
Okay.
And I remember getting him on, and he was just so bad because I thought the guy was actually very funny.
Yeah.
And then when I got him on the show, it was these fake people. Okay, let's get on. It was so dry, and I lost completely, kind of like the excitement about the interview. But that's kind of things, people, what you see from people, sometimes is not the way that they
present,
So that was a bit disappointing.
So this is somebody who had like a presence, like a social media presence?
Yeah. He's like a very famous, I'm not going to say the name, but he's a very well-known person that is really against Bitcoin and has been promoting gold a lot, Bitcoin is going to go to zero, gold is the place, that is the only asset that is going to hold value. And I really felt, oh God, I really wanted to have this guy on the show to have a laugh. And and he was just so dry, so fake. I couldn't even ask him the question the way that I wanted. So that was a bit disappointing.
Were you hoping to have more of like a debate too?
I like to have like authentic people on the show. They are there, they say something interesting, but they also make the show funny, because that's why people are watching. If it's something like, oh no, it's all the same, nobody watch, right? And then if we go to some very interesting interviews, I mean, Charles Hoskinson is definitely a great person to have on the show, because first of all, he doesn't come with something to sell, even if he's the founder of Cardano. And you know that I'm a pro Bitcoiner, I'm not really an altcoin person, but as a person, he's just so intelligent, so deep, he can talk about everything. And any conversation that I have with him is definitely a very insightful, discussion. So he's definitely great. And then, I had many other people on. They were just equally good. It's very difficult to decide. I mean, we did a full Bitcoin series where we interview kind of like the oldest OG in the Bitcoin space. That was brilliant. I mean, it kind of helped all my team to learn about the journey of Bitcoin. I think we did like 10 videos. And we explored, everything from infrastructure to the Lightning Network to, we got the brother of Charlie Lee, the founder of Bitcoin, which is Bobby Lee, that has got a company that does cold storage wallet, and obviously they are offering custody storage for Bitcoin. He was really good, actually. And then many other people as well. And I think something quite interesting was how the narrative has changed, right? At the beginning, there was like this dichotomy between the Bitcoin maxi and the rest. So even if there was like something building on Bitcoin, Ordinals, the maxi didn't really want to know anything about what was happening in the Bitcoin space. And then I think this narrative has changed after, you saw the rise of Ordinals, and then, everything else that, the ETFs, and then, whatever has been happening with Bitcoin Treasury, and institution adopting Bitcoin.
Sorry to be ignorant. What's the Ordinals?
Oh, Ordinals is art on Bitcoin.
Okay.
So it's like... I'm just going to try to simplify that. It's not really exactly that. So you remember NFTs? Right. This is kind of NFTs on Bitcoin.
Interesting, okay.
There is no... So an NFT was pointing... the art wasn't on the blockchain, right? Where with Bitcoin, is actually on... is an inscription that is actually on the Bitcoin blockchain, on actually the Satoshi.
What kind of art can do that?
Well, any art.
So how does like a painting go on the blockchain?
Well, it's going to be inscribed on.
And it just basically says who owns it. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got it.
So obviously, not all the art should go on Bitcoin, because what's happened is that this rise of Ordinals, these NFTs on Bitcoin, let's call it like that, created put a lot of pressure on the Bitcoin blockchain. So the fees skyrocket, and that in a way actually helped the miners as well. So it was interesting, the dynamic that created, but I think it did put a lot of pressure on the Bitcoin blockchain, and that's why there's been so much innovation, how we can actually make this more efficient. Some, they actually use layer 2s on Bitcoin. So there were all this experimentation happening. And I thought, experimentation is always good, because it gets people to innovate and be different. And I remember having some great discussion with these founders that were really also pro Bitcoin. But they wanted the Bitcoin network to expand and be something just more than store of value. And I went to so many conferences as well, where, they were showcasing this amazing art. They have done, I think they've tokenized a lot on Bitcoin. Prices, they were crazy. I remember there were some Ordinals selling for some crazy amount of money, and then everything kind of cooled down.
When was this? Was this
2023? I think it's all started in end of 2020, 23, 24,
And how, because you said that the attitude has shifted a little bit, how did like these Maxis, Bitcoin Maxis, are they a little bit more open to things now, or are you still finding the attitude to be very like, not interested in anything else apart from just the pure?
I think there is the less, we talk less about that. I think generally because Bitcoin has been adopted by more stakeholders, by more people across the globe, by institutions as well, by nation states. I think the voice of the Maxi has kind of been
it's a bit quieter.
Diluted.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, you see Bitcoin as, protector store of value that has been endorsed by everyone. So the media doesn't talk much about the Maxi. I think it's all about the media, right? Now the media just want to talk about Bitcoin treasury company. And crazy what is happening out there. There is stock, even on the London Stock Exchange. They went from, plus 200%, minus 150%. Lots of people lost a lot of money. And why? It's because the media keep focusing on one narrative, ramp it up so much, people get into FOMO, right? They don't want to miss out. So they buy and then they get, ripped off. So I think the Maxi are still there. When I go to conferences, I talk to these people and they still want to see Bitcoin only one way. They don't like the rest of the space. So if you talk about crypto, is not a good word to use anymore, right? So if you talk crypto, there is a lot of scam connected to that. So you if you want to play safe, you say digital assets.
Okay.
But really, are you a Bitcoiner or you're not a Bitcoiner? You can't like everything, otherwise it's a bit of wishy-washy. Right?
Yeah. Interesting. Well, thank you. This is very cool. We're going to cut to a quick break and we'll be back with some news stories and getting Stefania's take on those stories. See you soon.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's dive in with the biggest Bitcoin story making waves today. This is Top of the Block.
Okay.
Bitcoin investors are showing signs of serious patience, with new data suggesting most of them aren't in any rush to sell. According to blockchain analytics firm Glassnode, a so-called supermajority of Bitcoin holders are sitting on unrealized profits. That means they haven't sold yet, totaling around $1.2 trillion. Despite that enormous gain, most are choosing to HODL. The average short-term holder, someone who has held Bitcoin for less than 155 days, bought in at around $98,000. With the price now hovering above $107,000, most of them are in the green. But instead of cashing out, they're staying put. Glassnode says that even with profits up 125% on average, the current price isn't compelling enough to trigger big selling. In other words, investors are likely waiting for even higher prices. This is backed up by several on-chain indicators, which are tools that track actual transactions on the Bitcoin network. One of them shows realized profits, which are profits taken when the coins are sold. These numbers are dropping. Meanwhile, the supply held by long-term investors has hit a record high. We also saw a sharp drop in short-term selling after Bitcoin hit its all-time high back in May. That's another sign that traders expect the price to keep rising. At the time of this report, Bitcoin is trading just over $107,000, about 5.5% below its all-time high of nearly $112,000. Some market analysts say long-term holders could be the reason Bitcoin hasn't surged past that mark. Charles Edwards from Capriol Investments says some of those holders have been selling off to big Wall Street firms since Bitcoin ETFs launched earlier this year. For now, though, the market seems to be in a holding pattern, with billions in unrealized gains and a lot of eyes on what happens next. Okay, Stefania, I want to get your take on this. Do you think people should HODL? Does it make sense that people are holding and not selling? Are you surprised? I mean, when it had the highs of 112,000, there were quite a lot of people selling at that point. Yeah. Do you have any recommendations of whether to hold or sell at this point? What do you think?
Well, it's difficult to give advice because, you know, at the end of the day, everybody should make their own decision. And so, you know, depends on a person's situation and institutions, you know, mandate as well. But, you know, if you sell, that's fine. But then it depends if you're planning to come back in. And then you don't know when. There is, you know, there's a little point to sell at 112 and then come back at, you know, just below that because, you know, the trend is upwards. So, you know, I think it does depend. You know, if you want to sell and maybe wait a bit and then you think the market is going to go down and then, you know, you maybe are able to get in again by, you know, on a much better price. But if you want to sell because you're not sure and then your idea is still to be in, then there is no point because, you know, it's not easy to kind of catch the bottom. It's actually impossible.
It is.
So, you know, what's your investment strategy, right? Are you long? Are you medium? Are you, you know, you just trying to do a quick trade?
It seems like everybody, the majority, and I'm just guessing here, but just from the stories and what I'm hearing, everybody's sort of more looking at Bitcoin as a long-term investment.
Exactly.
Rather than trying to you know, play the market and, you know, catch it at the right time and sell and buy. It seems like people are, and I think a lot of people see it, the potential upside of it to be so much more.
100%, and I think that's really happened when we got the ETFs and then Trump got into power and started to, you know, back Bitcoin, support Bitcoin, and then, you know, you have got different nation states now wanting to adopt Bitcoin. So I think that kind of show you that Bitcoin is for the long term, right? It's not something that people see as risky as it used to be. So if you believe this narrative, then there is a bit pointless, you know, to kind of try to catch. You know, it's going to be 10% higher. I'm going to sell and then buy back. You're not going to be able to make. Actually, you might going to be losing money. So, you know, I think that's probably. You know, the way to do it is to make sure you have an amount that you are comfortable and then just leave it run. Obviously, if some macroeconomics or some kind of condition change and, you know, the environment is not looking so favorable, then, you know, then you might want to think, right, should I stay in and, you know, suck whatever it is, kind of like the bear market, and, you know, because it can happen, and it happened many times, and you just go through it. You might be in a loss, but then eventually you catch up. I mean, if you look at the trajectory of Bitcoin since, you know, it was created, there's always been going one way, which is up. So,
it's true. I'm not sure, like, I forget when you said that you first sort of discovered Bitcoin, but with the highs and the lows, have the lows ever worried you? Have you ever thought of, like, selling as things started to go like, how has your journey been with it? Because I think now we're at a point where we've seen it bounce so much that if you saw it tank, you'd be like, I think it's okay, just hold on for a bit. But in those early days when they were seeing those massive swings, I imagine that was pretty terrifying for some people. Have you had any experience with that? Or?
The first time I bought and I sold.
Interesting, okay.
Because obviously it was
you're like, what
scary,
is happening?
and, you know, everybody was saying, oh God, Bitcoin is very risky, and you see these crazy headlines, and I think I bought and I sold it. I don't think even I made any money. And then slowly started to buy back, and then the, you know, then you bear the losses wherever is you know, the time. But I think, you know, a good way is to dollar cost averaging. So you kind of keep buying. Sometimes, you know, you buy as a great price. Sometimes, you know, is a little bit more. And then, you know, then it gets to a point where if things are a little bit, you know, uncertain, you stop, you know, and then one of the things that was actually interesting in the previous cycle, when you are kind of scared that, you know, God, what's going on? And, you know, I don't really feel I want to be in crypto right now. Just stay in a stable coin.
Okay.
and then just buy back. You don't need to get out of, the digital asset space. You can still be there, but just flip to stablecoin. But, we are saying that where, at the end of the day, I believe that Bitcoin has a lot to give to all of us and is definitely a great asset and has matured so much. It's still volatile. But, listen, if you believe this narrative and you believe that Bitcoin is here to stay, but also to appreciate that, you definitely don't want to trade it, for a small profit, because then you need to get back in.
Yeah, exactly. I found it to be dollar cost averaging was recommended by a friend of mine, and then years ago when it was way lower than it is now, and then things tanked again, and I was like, oh, a bit risky, which was probably the best time to have carried on at that time. But I think I have a very low risk tolerance or appetite for risk tolerance. I'm a bit of a wimp and a wuss when it comes to it. I get like easily freaked out by the whole thing, and so it's been a wild ride, I think, with Bitcoin. And now I'm in a position where it's like, kind of what you were saying earlier about like when all these headlines and everybody's excited to buy it, then I kind of am in this like FOMO space.
Just put orders and then
that's true. That's true.
Kind of like you might be buying at the top. At the top, then it's not really the top. But like we said, I think for many people that maybe are not yet used to this dollar cost average, if we have to kind of like make it really simple, you can just open an account with Coinbase, right? And then every month you put in, or Kraken or whatever, you put in, £50, £100, £500. It really depends on each person. And you could do even a direct debit, so you don't
just
have
automated.
to worry. It's automated. It just goes down. Like I think there are even companies now they can pay you in Bitcoin. I know there's some they are actually looking at ways to maybe do pension scheme, also allocating to Bitcoin. So, it's always worth to check with, the company you are working with, if they've got anything, new now, because maybe it's the case. Otherwise, you can set up your own strategy every month, put in a little bit, don't stress too much. And if some point your conditions change, you don't feel comfortable, you stop. But, I think the way is really to look long term and, be also, have conviction.
Yeah, I think definitely understanding the people who have had that conviction, because I had a friend who sold a bunch of Bitcoin at $100. He was like a very, very early adopter, and we had this thing where I said, what would be the advice that you'd give to your younger self? And he was like, to keep the Bitcoin, to not sell the Bitcoin. I mean, he's bought back since, but he had a good return when Bitcoin hit $100. But could you imagine? And he's a smart guy. But for the people who in those early days, and then it bounced to 1,000 and then the 20,000 and then the 50,000, just to have that conviction and not to sell at those points, it's really incredible and then to have the dips, but then to hold on to it still. It takes somebody that really, I guess, has to have got it to know to hold through that crazy side. It's very cool. But when you have conviction, you don't want to be influenced by external factors that weaken your decision and then you sell. And that happened many times. It happened to me as well. Maybe I think this company is actually good. I think, it's going to have a successful outcome. And then because, different reason, then you just sell. You maybe made 3x or whatever. You say, I've made quite a lot of money, I'm just going to sell. And then actually you went up 10x. So if you have a personal conviction, you have done your due diligence, you think, oh God, this is a great asset, this is a great company. Just, believe in it. Yeah. Fun. Okay. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with some global gist stories.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
Next up, it's time for your daily breakdown of the headlines driving the world of finance, tech, and digital assets. We cut through the noise to bring you what matters. This is the Global Gist. Welcome to our Global Gist segment. Here's what's making news today. First up, Germany's largest bank, Deutsche Bank, is planning to offer cryptocurrency custody accounts starting in 2026. That's according to a new report from Bloomberg. The service would allow clients to store digital assets like Bitcoin safely with the bank. Deutsche Bank is expected to launch this in partnership with Bitpanda, a crypto exchange based in Austria, and Taurus, a Swiss technology firm the bank has already invested in. If confirmed, this would be the bank's biggest step into the world of crypto storage since first announcing interest back in 2020. Deutsche Bank has been gradually increasing its involvement in digital assets. Just last month, the bank's head of digital assets said they're considering launching or supporting stablecoins. And the manager said banks like Deutsche have a range of ways to enter the stablecoin market, from managing reserves to actually creating their own coins. The bank is also exploring a payment solution using tokenized deposits. This would allow money to be moved digitally, but within the banking system. This isn't Deutsche Bank's first crypto project. Last year, it was reportedly developing its own blockchain network using Ethereum technology, which helps make crypto transactions faster and cheaper. And in 2023, the bank applied for a digital asset custody license in Germany, a necessary step before launching this kind of service. Deutsche Bank has already been working with Bitpanda to improve crypto payments, with that partnership going back to June of last year. At the time of reporting, Deutsche Bank hadn't commented on the news. Bitpanda also declined to confirm or deny it. The move comes just as another major German institution, Sparkassen Finance Group, announced plans to bring crypto trading to its 50 million customers. It's the latest sign that traditional banks in Europe are getting more serious about digital assets. Stefania, I'm curious about what you think in regards to traditional banks holding Bitcoin. What do you make of that? Is this kind of like the antithesis of what Bitcoin is about? Is it a good thing? What do you think?
I think this is great. I mean, if we have to go to a point of mainstream adoption of these assets, then you definitely want to have banks to offer Bitcoin to their customer, right?
Yeah.
Whether it is via different, ETFs or assets they custody, but I think it's great.
Yeah.
They have to do it, otherwise they're gonna die. And I think another quite interesting aspect is about tokenization as well of digital assets. I think it was Robinhood that they just launched in Europe. They are going to be doing tokenized stocks in the EU. So
could you break down just a little bit of what that means to tokenize assets and like what Robinhood is doing there?
Yeah, so basically they just announced they are going to tokenize stocks and get them to trade 24/7. That is kind of innovative, right? Because first of all, they launched it in Europe, not in the US. That's quite interesting. And giving people the ability to buy an asset that trades all the time, that is something completely new. The traditional financial system obviously, shut down on Friday. Then, all the settlement, you need, if you want to buy a stock, you need to go via a broker. And then the broker has got, the settlement time, T2, whatever it is not smooth, right? So cutting down this middleman and being able to offer tokenized stock on the Robinhood app, that's, is going to be quite interesting. And I think they did announce also, not just public company, but also private company. So there is going to be kill the VC space in a way. But it's quite innovative how, the investment landscape is changing.
How do, I guess I can't quite get my head around it. How does one tokenize a stock? What is it? How do you, you've got the stock of a company. What does it mean to tokenize it? What is that process?
Yeah, so basically, you kind of put it on, it becomes an asset that is tradable 24/7. And it's similar like having a stock. It's the same things, right? But it's on a blockchain.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that means that it's got all the advantages of being using a technology. That is the technology of the internet, right? So there is not really much different, you know, in terms of like I'm holding a stock or I'm holding a tokenized stock. But with the tokenized stocks, I have got more flexibility and freedom. With a normal stock, I'm constrained by whatever is the technology that has been used for many, many years.
So the tokenized stock, so the traditional stock is on a stock exchange, and the tokenized stock is on a blockchain.
Exactly.
Okay, that really helps.
And
to
you know,
make
you
a
can
sense of it.
easily, you know, sell it. It's settled straight away.
Yeah.
You have got funds. You can put them into Bitcoin, for example. It's much more, easy way. And also, I think more accessible to people as well.
Yeah, definitely. Back to the custody of banks, because you were saying like and it does make sense that banks have to start, you know, getting involved in this space because it clearly is the future. But to me, I find it, you know, Bitcoin was created because of the banks needing bailouts, you know, and now it's the banks are kind of very much getting involved in Bitcoin. A part of me is like, is this the opposite of what Bitcoin was created for? You know, I guess if there's going to be global adoption, then they have to be kind of connected with, there needs to be a connection with like the current financial system. But yeah, I find it just a bit of like contradictory to the whole point. But I guess for you think that it does make sense. It is a good thing. It is helping things move forward.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. And it's true that obviously the ethos of Bitcoin, why it was created, it was, you know, for decentralization, for empowerment, and definitely not to get institution to centralize, you know, like we discussed last time, you know, Bitcoin. But then at the end of the day, we need to get Bitcoin to the masses. We need to get people to know that this asset exists and you can buy it. And, you know, it's not that all the people out there, they know how to set up a wallet, how to do that. You know, it requires a bit of education. What about if the institution that you're already working with, your bank, wherever it offers you these assets, then you might be able to buy. And then you get to know the assets more, and then you say, right, am I just going to buy, you know, and just hold it myself rather than do it via an exchange, a bank, you know. It's kind of a process, but definitely buy Bitcoin and leave it on Coinbase is not so different than buy Bitcoin and leave it with your bank.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're right. I think it is an easier path of entry for most people, where I think previously the technical setup has sort of put a lot of people off and stopped them getting involved. We've only got 5 minutes left, but I want to move through quickly to kind of on this topic. Visa and MasterCard, we've had a lot of stories recently about, it seems like they're kind of paying catch up because they're scared in a way that they're going to become obsolete soon with just, you know, stable coins and payments being made on blockchains. And then what's the point in credit card companies, and that, you know, they kind of defeat the purpose. And so they are trying to like get into this space. I don't think there's time to read that
they are all partnering, right, with different kind of blockchains, stable coins, and you know, like the banks, they are trying to don't lose their heads, right? They know that now they are still the best, because the transactions are quick, and you know, there is nothing better than Visa and MasterCard, right? But they see that the space is changes. They see that the upside the stable coin are actually bringing. And so that's, you know, they can't do much. They just need to partner with them, see if they can develop something together. But it's very interesting. What I find out is that everybody is trying to like develop product on the blockchain, but in a way that is their own product. You know, if you think about tokenization using for example, somebody is going to build their own layer 2 compatible with Ethereum and other chains. So they are kind of building their own technology. So my worry is going to be too fragmented, the ecosystem, right? And then you have got tokenized stocks on that chain and tokenized stocks on the other chain, and you know, Visa partnering with that stable coin and the other one partnering with
It's a bit messy. It's a lot going on.
You know, at the end of the day, you do want to have some kind of standard. You want to have some kind of interoperability. You don't want to have too many things, right? So we are still at the stage where everybody is experimenting, and I think what Visa and MasterCard are doing is great. It's just, you know, go and experiment with a different technology. But what I see is that a lot of fragmentation, and also I don't see much happening trying to leverage in Bitcoin. And that is a little bit of, you know, it put me a bit off, you know what I mean? Everybody's kind of going, and I understand, because stablecoin are a big part of today's narrative, right? And they probably are, you know, if you think about the evolution of digital assets, stablecoin are in that middle where you do need an asset that is pegged to fiat, that is easy on and off ramp, and is kind of more stable than other assets. So I do see the value obviously in stablecoin right now, but there is not much that is actually happening on, you know, using Bitcoin or leveraging on that technology. It seems that everybody is trying to choose other networks. So I think the question is, what is actually going to last? What this experiment, right, of Visa and MasterCard, what is actually going to get out of the sandbox, if you know what I mean,
for sure.
or is going to get adopted. But there is FOMO there as well.
FOMO, you said?
FOMO,
Yeah.
Lots of FOMO from banks.
It seems like it.
Lots of FOMO from, you know, this banking, or, you know.
It definitely feels like, I mean, I can't remember, we did an article, spoke last week or the week before. It was one of the banks who was very much against it and said, you know, Bitcoin is never going to go anywhere, and now is, you know, got his tail between his legs in a way, and it's like, okay, we're kind of coming back into this. I guess everybody's doing it. So it seems like, FOMO, everybody's sort of trying now to catch up. The ones that didn't believe really before are now kind of scrambling in a way too. So a lot of adoption happening. That actually brings us to the end of the show. Where can people find out more about you and what you've got going on?
Oh, thank you. That's
You've got some great stuff.
Well, I would just say go and check out, you know, Financial Fox videos. Because I think you will find some really cool people there I talk to. There is a lot of, you know, insights on Bitcoin as well. We are running Bitcoin for Corporation series, which I started back in April.
Okay.
And then it became really popular because of these Bitcoin treasury companies. But as I said, we did a series on Bitcoin as well, and it's really great content that helped me, and I'm sure will help many other people to kind of dive into this
and learn
industry.
More. Perfect. So Financial Fox on YouTube. You're also a Financial Fox or Steffi on X, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Steffixe on X. Thank you so much. It's always great talking to you. Thank you so much for watching. We're handing over to The Great Awakening. Nolan will be hosting that show. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. See you then.